Put your seatbelts on and get ready for the ride. We're the freaking New York Jets, so we're built for this shit.
Hello and welcome to another episode of In the Trenches with Gang Green. I'm your host, Bubbs. Today is Saturday, November 8th. Hopefully everybody's having a good day so far today. This is episode 654 of the In the Trenches with Gang Green podcast. I thank you, as always, for joining me. For those tuning in on YouTube, make sure to please like and subscribe. Of course, appreciate all of those tuning in on all the different audio podcast platforms. And today we are previewing the New York Jets Week 10 matchup against the Cleveland Browns, as the Jets come into this game at 1-7, still searching for their first home win of the season, and the Cleveland Browns 2-6 on the season, still searching for their first road win of the season. Unstoppable force meets unmovable object in this one tomorrow afternoon, 1 p.m. Eastern, CBS at MetLife Stadium. Both teams coming off a bye week. The New York Jets coming off of a crazy trade deadline, which saw them deal Sauce Gardner and Quinnen Williams away. We'll break it all down in today's episode. Jets offense versus the Browns defense. We'll get into the Jets defense against the Browns offense, some matchups to watch with the way the season has gone, the results of the trade deadline, where things stand with the Jets, changing up the preview pods a little bit from our normal keys to the game, X factors, things like that. With the way this season has went, those episodes have gotten very repetitive. So did this towards the end of last season, with the rest of this season with the Jets being more so watching for certain things. That's what I want to dive into more in these game preview episodes moving forward, the rest of the 2025 campaign, breaking down more so what to watch for in this game, certain players, as it's kind of an evaluation period for the Jets here over the next 9 games coming out of the bye week, looking to make it 2 straight wins, even though the bye week was in the middle there. And that's the same case for the Browns here as well. This is a team that is also coming off of a bye week. But the fact of the matter is, it is 2 terrible football teams at MetLife Stadium tomorrow afternoon. So we'll see really what this game provides for us from an entertainment standpoint. Just some other numbers before I dive into, as always, my opening thoughts here heading into this one. The Jets are 2.5-point road or home underdogs. So the Cleveland Browns are the road favorites in this one. Over under set at 37.5. That line actually changed after the Jets made their 2 blockbuster trades. ESPN Analytics matchup predictor is giving the New York Jets a 65% chance of winning and the Cleveland Browns a 34.7% chance of winning. When you look at both these teams, this season has gone very similar in terms of the results. Now, how they've gotten to the results, it's been a little bit different but from a results-driven perspective, these are 2 teams that are in very similar spots. You have a Cleveland Browns team, last place in their division at 2-6, searching for any type of answers. You trade Joe Flacco halfway through the season to the division rival Cincinnati Bengals. Dylan Gabriel takes over, and you're still not seeing results. You're still seeing a Cleveland Browns team that continues to struggle. And from the Jets' perspective, also last place in the division, 1-7 on the season. The only difference is now seeing what they can do heading into this game, coming off of a win against the Bengals where they put up 39 points, a really awesome come-from-behind win. Now you take that into the bye week. You have what was a crazy Tuesday afternoon where you dealt Quinnen Williams and Sauce Gardner. And that's one of the biggest things I'm looking for in this game is how the New York Jets come out. And we got to make this very clear as Jet fans, and I want to make this very clear as well. It's still an evaluation phase the rest of this season. While Glenn and Muji essentially guaranteed themselves 2 more years with those 2 trades to stock up on draft picks, 2 first-round picks this year in 2026, this upcoming draft, and then 3 first-round picks in 2027. They're basically telling Woody Johnson, you got to give us time, find our quarterback, use these picks to build around him, use these picks to fill out this roster with players that we want, players that fit our vision, and then you'll start to see the results. If you don't, then they'll get fired. But even that being the case, where there was that little bit of that portion earlier in the year where if this continued with Aaron Glenn, could you talked about the possibility of this being a one and done? The Jets could lose every single game from here on out. They're coming back. They could go 1-16, they're coming back. There's a real chance they go 2-15 and they're going to come back. It doesn't matter, but you still have to evaluate the way things go here the rest of the year. And I think tomorrow is actually a very important game for Aaron Glenn because similar to what took place in Cincinnati, you go back to what happened during that week, right? Fields got benched against the Carolina Panthers, and Woody Johnson then came out that Tuesday before the Bengals game, publicly crushed Justin Fields, creating unnecessary headlines, putting more on Aaron Glenn's plate for no reason. The Jets went into that Bengals game not announcing the starting quarterback, which they're doing again. Obviously, Tyrod Taylor ended up getting hurt, didn't make the trip to Cincinnati, so Fields ended up having to start anyway. And despite all that outside noise, Glenn and the Jets were able to go in there and pick up a win. Kind of a similar situation here. But more importantly, it's coming out of a bye week. And we want to see Aaron Glenn, this coaching staff, this team build on week 8. That week 8 game can't just be a one and done type of thing, an off game or just a rare game. That has to start to become the norm the rest of the season, or at least more common than not, where they're in games, they're taking it to the fourth quarter, and you're seeing progress. You're seeing progress from Aaron Glenn. Terrible in-game decisions when you take a look back at his first 7 games. Oftentimes getting worse. But that game against the Bengals, he clicked a lot of the right buttons, especially late in the game. You want to see that constant improvement. And one thing that Robert Saleh always struggled with was coming out of bye weeks, extra time to prepare. That always hurt him. It was weird because Saleh would win the Thursday night games. But when the team had extra time to prepare, coming out of bye weeks, they were awful. Glenn can't have that be the case, not just this year, but his entire Jets tenure. Show that you can have this team ready coming out of a bye week. And more importantly, it's been a crazy week. And that's why I think it's important to see how the Jets come out in this game, because it was a shock to the locker room. It's a shock to the fan base. It's a shock to the organization to ship away 2 players of Sauce Gardner and Quinnen Williams' caliber, specifically Sauce Gardner, because he just got the extension back in July. Quinnen, you could start to see the writing on the wall, but even that, he was in his 7th year with the team. He's one of the elite defensive tackles in the NFL. Anytime you trade away a player of Quinnen Williams and Sauce Gardner's caliber, it's going to send quite the shockwave through the locker room. It's going to create a lot of noise. How does Glenn quiet that noise, have this team ready after a week off, coming off a win? I think the start tomorrow is going to be really important. And just the rest of the way, we need to see improvement from Glenn. We can't walk away from this season and look at week 8 against a Bengals team that frankly isn't any good as the only highlight in Aaron Glenn's first year. I don't care the Browns are 2-6. You've got to start to show some progress. Even if the wins aren't coming, you've got to start to see Glenn show improvement, have this team show improvement, be competitive week in and week out. Start to see some of these young guys with greater roles now after these trades step up and show that you are capable of developing some of these young players. That's what you've got to watch for the rest of the way here. And that it starts tomorrow afternoon against the Browns. And who knows, maybe we're in for an entertaining game, because it's funny, the Spiro Ditas, Adam Archuleta crew, who we get tomorrow, last 2 games for them have been some of the best games we've seen all season. Jets, Bengals, and then Bears, Bengals last week. And I think part of that is how bad the Bengals defense is, and they let up a ton of points, and the Jets and Bears are able to capitalize, and they gave it away late. Browns defense isn't that bad, so it's going to be a challenge. Whether or not Justin Fields plays in this game, that's still an unknown. Glenn continues to go at it with the media with that. I think it's going to be Justin Fields, but I could be wrong. I thought Tyrod Taylor was going to start against the Bengals. He obviously didn't. But I don't know how you can't throw Fields out there after what he did against the Bengals. Doesn't mean he's the starter the rest of the way. Fields at this point, he's not the long-term option. That's clear. So really, who's out there the rest of the way, it really doesn't matter because neither of them are part of the long-term solution. But still, I think it will be Fields tomorrow. Now, in terms of the injury report for the Jets, pretty clean overall, which is good. Khalil Herbert dealing with a groin, questionable. Kiko Maui-Noah with a concussion, questionable. Xavier Newman, ankle injury, questionable. And Garrett Wilson, he'll be out there. Even though he's listed as questionable, he'll be ready to go despite coming off now the knee injury. I think we all kind of pinpoint this date. Got injured against Denver, missed Carolina, missed Cincy. You expected him to miss, 2 to 3 weeks with the bye in there, only 2 games. So Garrett Wilson back out there, which in such a terrible Jets season, it gives you a reason to watch tomorrow because Garrett Wilson, no matter how bad this team is always a lot of fun to see on the field. In terms of the Browns injury report, also pretty light as both these teams getting healthy coming out of the bye week. Isaiah Bond is the only one ruled out for Cleveland with a foot injury. Couple other of note, Harold Fannin Jr. hamstring, Cornelius Lucas with a back popped up late on Friday, Carson Schlesinger with an ankle, and Cedric Tillman dealing with a hamstring. So a couple skill position guys there to keep an eye on before tomorrow's kickoff. Now, as I said, going to do it a little differently. Kind of break down Jets offense versus Browns defense and then vice versa. When you look at this Jets offense this year, they come into this game 25th in the NFL in total offense, 3rd in rushing offense, dead last at 32nd in passing offense, and they're the 24th scoring offense in football. Tall task ahead of them. As bad as Cleveland has been, they are one of the elite defenses in the NFL. 3rd-ranked defense total, 9th against the run, 6th against the pass, and 17th in scoring defense. So top 10 in both pass and run defense, and comfortably inside the top 5 at number 3 overall in the season. A lot of that is due to the play of Myles Garrett, of course, who continues to dominate week in and week out. If Justin Fields is out there tomorrow, can he build on last week's or 2 weeks ago now's performance where he went 21 of 32, 65.6 completion percentage, 244 yards, 7.6 yards per completion, had the touchdown, 99 passer rating, and a 64.4 QBR. Looked like the Pittsburgh game against Justin Fields. Much greater challenge against the Browns because their defense is significantly better than Cincy's and even significantly better than the Steelers, who have not had a very good season defensively. When you look at Fields on the year, he's completed 64.1% of his passes, 1,089 yards, 6.5 yards per completion, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions, 92.6 passer rating, and a 64.4 QBR. Just to kind of get a better gauge of this offense and some of these weapons, I think you look at Fields and whoever starts at quarterback, Engstrand specifically with Fields, play to his strengths. Get him out of the pocket, roll him out, some more design runs. We started to see some more of that against Cincy. And more importantly, from Fields' angle, and I want to really dive into the receivers here in a second, but get the ball out. One thing that he did very well against Cincinnati was he got the ball out quickly. It was the fastest time getting the ball out that he's had all season. For previous weeks, he's held onto the football way too long. Guys running wide open, processing's not there, takes a sack, incompletion, whatever. And you saw that even benefit the offensive line. And when you look at this Browns defense and the guys they have up front, specifically Myles Garrett, who is just a menace when it comes to getting to the quarterback, holding on to the football is going to hurt you in this game. Get the ball out quick, spread it around, and by doing that, you start to see what this team has in some of their new additions, A.D. Mitchell and John Mechie. And those are two players that I want to dive into right now. Even throw Arian Smith in this category. And I said this the other day after the completion of the trade deadline and with the way things are headed with the New York Jets. Just give me, I want to see just the development of the rookies that are playing, and now A.D. Mitchell, John Mechie, and even throw Arian Smith in that conversation, and even Mason Taylor, right? Garrett Wilson's going to make his plays. He's going to have his moments. We all know that. And I want to see Garrett Wilson get to 1,000 yards. I want to see him have hopefully another 80-plus reception season. If he does that with the 1,000 yards, it would be obviously another 1,000-yard season, which would be his fourth straight in his career. And if he can get over 80 receptions, it would also be the fourth straight time in his career in as many years that he hits that. So despite not going to play in all 17, he stays healthy the rest of the way here. Still want to see him get to that landmark. So you're certainly looking for that. But with these trades and where the Jets are at, you want to see what you have in some of these other receivers, specifically A.D. Mitchell, John Mechie, Mason Taylor. You want to continue to see growth. But we'll just talk about the new guys here on top of Arian Smith as well. I think A.D. Mitchell, roll him out there as your wide receiver too. There's no reason that guys like Tyler Johnson, Allen Lazard should be playing over Mitchell, Mechie, and even Arian Smith. You're 1-7. You've clearly taken the approach of, not that the Jets were all in to win, but trading your two star players on defense. You've clearly said, we're looking towards the future. This season means nothing really in terms of results. So when you take that approach, play the young guys, play the new players, see what you have in A.D. Mitchell, see what you have in John Mechie. Get them the ball, target them. You want to see if these pieces can be your building blocks for the future. I talked about it the other day. Can A.D. Mitchell or John Mechie be your wide receiver 2, or more specifically, wide receiver 3? Wide receiver 2 is jumping it. But can either of those guys turn into your wide receiver 3 of the future? If they show you enough over the next 9 games, you've still got team control over them moving forward. Can either of those guys be your wide receiver 3 of the future? Same goes for Arian Smith. And when you look at A.D. Mitchell, Garrett Wilson spoke very highly of him. This was a guy that was a very highly touted receiver coming out of Texas just a year ago. Second round pick, 52nd overall, so a high pick on day number 2. And it just didn't work out in Indianapolis. He got buried in a very solid, very talented wide receiver room. And frankly, and we talked about this, A.D. Mitchell's time in Indy, when you look at the numbers, isn't correctly, I think, compartmentalized, however you pronounce that. Word salad. When you look at the film, when you look at some of the other advanced metrics, he gets open. He does a very good job drawing separation. In breakers, vertical routes, he gets open. He's there. Anthony Richardson last year just wasn't able to hit him, wasn't able to find him. A lot of times you watch back some of the tape, he beat his man vertically, overthrow, because he was playing with a quarterback who had a 47.7 completion percentage. Your goal for Justin Fields in this offense, or whoever's under center, get him the ball, get him opportunities, pepper him with targets. The only way you're going to find out what you have in A.D. Mitchell and John Mechie is if you give them opportunities. Having them out there just running routes, doing cardio, not getting any targets, you're not going to have any clue. When you look at Mitchell so far, 25 games played, 32 receptions in his career, 464 yards. Nothing crazy. But again, you talk about some of the advanced stuff. He's got the second best separation grade on vertical routes, third best separation grade on in-breaking routes last season. So did some good things. And the same goes for John Mechie. His ability to get open vertically was really impressive as well. He's got some versatility, 51% of his routes from the slot, 49% of his routes from out wide. Let's see these guys. And A.D. Mitchell's starting to, I think, really excite some Jets fans, because you heard Garrett Wilson talk about him. You hear some people from the Colts speak on him who've covered him. And it was basically he just never got the opportunity. He now has an opportunity. There's no reason for him not to have the opportunity to get targets, to get balls thrown his way and show what he can do. In a perfect world, he turns into a long-term piece. If any of these guys can turn into a long-term piece, that's huge, because that's one less receiver that you view down the line that you need if you can find a way to turn A.D. Mitchell or any of these guys into a wide receiver 3, let's say. So all of those guys I'm looking at. You even throw Arian Smith, Mason Taylor. Arian Smith is a little bit different than Mason Taylor. He really hasn't done much. Mason Taylor has shown consistent progress, continued to show that the rest of the way here. Now, I mentioned Garrett Wilson. So far this season, 36 receptions, 395 yards, 4 touchdowns. Let's get 2,000 yards. I think when you get this bad and when the season gets so out of hand like this, a lot of times you start to look at some individual statistical milestones. And a player like Garrett Wilson deserves another 1,000-yard, 80-plus reception season. Breece Hall, can he continue to build here the rest of the way? The future of Breece Hall is really interesting, something that'll be a big conversation in the offseason. But he's had a good year so far. He has very quietly, Breece Hall, despite some of the inconsistencies in the Jets' run game and the poor quarterback play that's made it predictable on what the Jets are doing on the ground. He's done a very good job, and he's on pace for a career year. He's on pace for over 1,000 yards for the first time in his career. When you look at his numbers so far, 117 carries, 581 yards, 2 touchdowns, 5 yards a carry. He's added another 178 yards through the air. I think that can even increase, utilizing him more as a receiver. On the year, he's got 138 total touches, 759 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So well on his way to well over 1,000 all-purpose yards, or scrimmage yards, I should say, and well on his way to over 1,000 rushing yards. I mean, he's 12th in the NFL in rushing yards. He's 17th in carries, comfortably in the top 15. He's done a good job. I mean, I've said this the other day. I have no issue with the Jets keeping Breece. You hope that they can work something out long-term, whether that's a transition tag, whether it's a franchise tag, whether it's just extending him. Is he happy or not? That's another question, and that's something that you'll probably know more of once the offseason hits. And that's why the rest of this season is just a drag, because everything that really matters for the Jets is going to happen in the offseason. Like, these games at this point, very meaningless in terms of the actual results. Like, the Jets win tomorrow, great. 2-7. You're not going anywhere still. But Breece has had 3 100-yard rushing games this year. He only won last year, so already tripled that total. And that's pretty much it offensively. One other thing I'll mention offensively, Armand Membu, Olu continue to dominate. Membu tomorrow has a huge opportunity against Myles Garrett. You look at Myles Garrett, 10 sacks on the season, 15 quarterback hits, 15 tackles for loss, 34 pressures. He's first in the NFL in tackles for loss, second in sacks, first in the AFC, though, in sacks. And you look at some of his grades, 92.9 overall grades, first in among defensive ends. 92.6 pass rush grade second among defensive ends, and 86.7 run defense grade first among defensive ends. So great against the pass, great against the run. This is a generational pass rusher and elite talent. Membu did a good job against TJ Watt. Membu has held his own against some really good pass rushers. Tomorrow will be a massive test. Same goes for Olu. Really interested to see what they do. One of the lone bright spots on this team is the offensive line, coming off a great game against the Bengals, and specifically your 2 bookend tackles, or at least what seems like your 2 bookend tackles. Armand Membu having what is a monster rookie year. In some areas, an all-time great rookie season for an offensive tackle. So continue that tomorrow. Moving on to the Jets defense against the Browns offense. Similar from a Browns offense perspective to the Jets offense, horrible. 31st total offense in football, 28th rushing offense, 29th passing offense, and the 29th scoring offense in football. The Jets defense, on the other hand, 20th overall, 26th against the run, 11th against the pass, 27th against the scoring. So certainly some struggles there. And now you remove Quinnen Williams and Sauce Gardner. Not that the defense was very good with those guys, but it's not going to get better without them. And that's kind of been a a weird theme that's gone around the Jets fan base that somehow trading Quinn Williams and Sauce Gardner is making this defense better. No, it's not. It's not going to be any better. It was not any good. Doesn't mean it's going to be better now. It's still not going to be good. The Jets still aren't going to be good this season without those two guys. Not that they were good with them. Dillon Gabriel, the rookie, 5th start tomorrow. So far, 4 starts in, he's 1-3, 82 of 138, 59.4% completion percentage, 683 yards, 4.9 yards per attempt, 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 75.8 passer rating. He's taken a beating, 11 sacks, which you round that across 4 games. That's roughly 3 sacks per game, which is a lot for a rookie quarterback. I think most rookie quarterbacks struggle with pressure. You want to protect them. The Browns have done the opposite of that. He's taken a beating so far. So those are his numbers as a starter. Overall, he's appeared in 6 games at quarterback. And in those 6 games total, adding what he also has done as a starter, he's got 5 touchdowns, 702 yards on the year. It's been bumpy for Dillon Gabriel. There's been a few glimpses of good, but overall, it's been bumpy. There hasn't been – it's a tough situation because he's going into a spot where there's not a ton of talent around him. He's jumping into a spot where they trade Flacco middle of the year. Now he steps in. It's been bumpy. I mean, just in general with Cleveland, we know the Jets and Browns, both of them, but with quarterbacks there in general, I think, it's quarterback graveyard with both these teams in many ways, especially with Cleveland here. So Dillon Gabriel draws in again. It'll be his 5th start. I think for the Jets, you look and get pressure on them. Get pressure. Try and force a couple turnovers. Can we see a couple turnovers in this game? Can we see like an A.Z. Thomas interception? I think that would be big. You trade Sauce Gardner. A.Z. Thomas goes out there and gets an interception. You want to see A.Z. Thomas play well. You want to see him show positive signs over the next couple of weeks because he essentially is your Sauce Gardner replacement. And I think tomorrow's an opportunity against a rookie quarterback. If you could find a way to get home, get pressure on him, which other teams have been able to do, you could potentially force him into some mistakes. So that's the Dillon Gabriel side of things. He's not – I don't think you view Dillon Gabriel necessarily as the future. It's been bumpy. It's definitely been bumpy. And you look at the record, and it clearly kind of falls along that line of being bumpy for Gabriel. Has limited the killer mistakes. I would say that. He's had 2 interceptions in his 4 starts, but he hasn't had that 3 interception game yet where the wheels completely fall off. But he's also not really making any crazy big plays or showing really signs of legitimately taking a team to another level. And I think that's kind of what you would expect out of a 3rd-round quarterback in the situation he's in. Do you ever see Shedeur Sanders at any point this season? Who knows? But that's where things stand with the quarterback. Couple things with the Browns offense that is a positive, though. Quinshon Judkins. Jets run defense comes into this game, as I mentioned, 26th in the NFL, 135.8 yards per game. They've struggled. They traded away Quinn Williams, who was their best run defender, the best run defending defensive tackle in the NFL. Judkins has an opportunity tomorrow to have a big day, and there's a real good chance that he probably does. 118 carries, 486 yards, 4.1 yards per carry, 5 touchdowns so far this season. Tied for 15th in the NFL in carries, 17th in yards, tied for 8th in touchdowns. So for the rookie, comfortably inside the top 20 in both carries and yards, and inside the top 10 in touchdowns. So he's found the end zone a couple times as well. Has been one of the lone bright spots for Cleveland. And the way things started with Judkins before the season, it looked ugly. Got everything situated, and he's worked out well so far. And as a rookie, continues to grow, continues to try and get better. A Jets run defense that has struggled, doesn't have their best run defender anymore. So look for Judkins tomorrow. And I'll even know one other player, questionable, but do believe he plays. That's Harold Fannin Jr. 38 receptions on the year, 352 yards, 2 touchdowns, 9.3 yards per reception. He's tied for 7th among tight ends in receptions. 2nd, though, among rookies. and he's 14th in yards, so top 15 among tight ends in yards, but third among rookies. So he's been quietly one of the better rookie tight ends. Quincy Williams benched in this game, which is interesting, and I'm curious if that is similar to what Glenn did with Javian Sherwood against the Bengals, where he actually benched him to start the game. Is this something where they bench him to start the game to send a message, or is this something where he's really got to earn his job back? And the whole benching of Quincy Williams doesn't make sense, because if you're going to bench him and clearly don't like the way he's playing, you're not going to re-sign him. So in that event, why didn't you trade him and get something for him? So that part I don't think you like if you're a Jet fan, not the benching per se. I mean, it doesn't matter. They're 1-7. Quincy Williams playing or Quincy Williams being benched is not going to change the trajectory of this team. The defense is so bad, but the problem is, why didn't you trade him? So no Quincy tomorrow, at least to start as a starter. Kiko Maui, I know you assume draws in, but other players I'm looking at, Malachi Moore, AZ Thomas, right? Both have made some really, really good plays to open up since they've became starters. AZ Thomas last week starting in for Sauce. Now will start the rest of the way for Sauce, or 2 weeks ago when Sauce had the concussion. Now he steps in as this team's corner the rest of the way. The cornerback room as a whole, like Jarvis Brownlee Jr., continue to see positives out of him. Brandon Stephens has quietly put together a really strong season. Let's see that continue, because you're really looking at arguably one position group that you're probably looking at the starting three for next year, if things go as planned, is the cornerback room. Jarvis Brownlee Jr., Brandon Stephens, AZ Thomas. That's really the only position. That's crazy to think that it really is. The cornerback room is the only position group on this team that you're probably looking at all three starters for next year, or at least the highest chance, because even the offensive line could go through a little bit of a makeover. Obviously, wide receiver minus Garrett Wilson is a complete unknown. You really don't know with Brees. Quarterback, of course, will change. Tight end from Mason Taylor, I guess so. Yeah, Mason Taylor will start. But out of positions where there's multiple starters, not including, tight end behind Mason Taylor, that will change. Defensive line will change. Linebackers will obviously change. And then the safety opposite of Malachi Moore is going to change as well, because you're not bringing Cisco back. Tony Adams is gone. You're going to need somebody else there. But cornerback room, if AZ Thomas plays well, you're probably looking at your three starting cornerbacks for next year, which you can't say that about the rest of this roster. So continue to see that unit here show some progress, but specifically AZ Thomas, the rookie, who now draws in as essentially your Sauce Gardner replacement, which is big shoes to fill. Malachi Moore as well. I mentioned Membu against Myles Garrett, A.D. Mitchell, John Mechie, all matchups to watch. This Jets run defense against Judkins, this young secondary, Mozzie Smith, any opportunity that he gets, keep an eye on. He's not going to ever live up to the first-round pick caliber. He's not going to fill Quinn Williams' shoes, but can he show you enough where you think, okay, maybe he can be a rotational defensive line piece in the future? You hit on your draft picks and Mozzie Smith turns into a rotational defensive lineman moving forward. It's a pretty good return for Quinn Williams. So those type of things keep an eye on. Unfortunately, that's where we're at in this season with the New York Jets, where it's not so much about the wins and losses anymore. It's more so about the certain players and position groups. And when the organization has basically told you we're going all in with draft on 2026 and 2027, it makes some of these games tough. It does. And tomorrow is going to be an ugly one. And I think the Browns do win. That's my pick. I think Browns win. Offensively, I think there's going to be a bit of a regression from the Jets. And I think the Browns will do not just enough. So give me the Browns 17-13. That is with no real confidence or conviction, because I could see this game going either way. But I'll say Browns 17-13. And we'll see how it all plays out. You just got to start to see more progress from Glenn, progress from a couple of these players as the season rolls on. So that'll do it. Another episode in the books. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. What are your thoughts on this Jets-Browns matchup? Your predictions, let me know. Appreciate you all as always. We'll be back tomorrow right after the game for my recap pod. So stay tuned. And until next time, JETS, 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 Jets.